We are again recording live on Facebook. However, I cannot interact with you in the Facebook feed. I need you to join the webinar. Just click on the link in the post below the live stream and join the webinar, and that way I can see and interact with you, because I can't be two places at once. I don't know if I have any of my admins around today or not, but if somebody is around, please join in, and if possible, keep an eye on the Facebook feed so that if there's something I'm missing, you can either redirect them to come over here to the webinar, or let me know what the questions are they're asking. I don't have a specific subject today. I've got the quarantine hairdo going on. It's I either have to have it really short, or I've got to let it get long enough that it can be combable, but it's in that mangled rough stage. Can't wait until the barbershops reopen. I don't really have a specific topic today. I want to talk about a couple of things that are going on, some things that I'm doing to keep myself active and focused during this very stressful time. I have to tell you that now this is my personal experience. I feel, and let's talk about this. Nia and Scav and I discussed this a little bit on Sundays, this upcoming Service Dog show, Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern on dvradio.net. You can also tune in by listening to the DV Radio channel on the Live 365 app. This enforced isolation is not easy right now. It's tough. One of the symptoms for me, one of the symptoms that I have suffered as part of PTSD is social isolation. So much so that I actually went out of my way to train Skeeter how to greet people appropriately in order to create a bridge for me to connect to other people. Well, right now, everybody's social distancing. So I'm in a catch-22, because when I need to be able to talk to people just for my own well-being, like I said, I've trained Skeeter to greet people appropriately. He's charming. People love Skeeter. Skeeter loves people. He loves the attention. He loves, the reward for behaving, and I get interaction, and I can have a conversation. And this is how I've learned to educate. This is how I've learned to share my experiences. This is how I've connected with veterans. At the same time, there are days when all you want to do is go shopping, right? You just want to go get your job done, get what you need to do done. And we all know that we all have the experience of people being just nosy or wanting to, talk about the dog, and, oh my God, I had a dog that looked just like that, and blah, 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 20 years ago, and it died. And we've all been there. We've all dealt with the dead dog stories and the questions, appropriate or inappropriate. We've all had to deal with that. Well, with social distancing, guess what? We're not dealing with it, right? And social distancing is great for service dog handlers, because everybody's afraid if they touch the dog, the Rona might be on the dog's fur. And so we can't touch the dog because we might get the Rona. And they're treating service dogs like, oh, back. Guess what? People who do not handle service dogs, that's how you're supposed to behave around a service dog all the time. You're supposed to give us our space and just let us live. You're not supposed to go spaz out, overreact because you saw a dog and create a scene. Okay? That's what you do. That non-service dog handlers, that's how you behave. But right now, you're not doing it because you're afraid of the Rona. How about just being aware of the privacy of the disabled person with the service dog? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I do not intentionally parade my dog out in public to get pets. If people approach me in an appropriate manner and ask politely, often I will allow petting, because it gives me a chance, again, to overcome some of my symptomology. Okay? And that's part of how I use Skeeter to help me. When I choose, when I need that, I don't always need that. Sometimes I just need groceries in my cart, and I need a 20-minute run to the grocery store not to take 2 hours because I can't walk 6 feet without somebody stopping me to talk about my dog. You know, lady, yes, I heard you tell me that my dog's beautiful 3 times. I acknowledged you saying it 3 times. I don't need you to follow me around the store because I might not have heard you. What if I was actually deaf and he was a hearing alert dog? Am I being rude then if I don't acknowledge you? You know, it's just the dog is not present to entertain anybody. And if a person is taking a dog to places to entertain people, um, they may not be a legitimate service dog handler. They might not even be disabled. And that dog might not have the appropriate training. One of the big things that I don't think that the public understands is that service dogs, using a service dog, this is a very difficult path to go down. It's challenging because people are idiots. The general public are idiots, and they overreact. And look, I have had some crazy inappropriate responses to Skeeter's presence, both positive and negative. Oh my God, I've never seen anything so gorgeous. Oh my God. Please. I mean, people just hyper overreacting to a ridiculous extent over an Alaskan Malamute. And then you get the people who go the opposite way and freak out, and they're either terrified because it's a big dog, or we had a woman screeching at us. We're in the dog food aisle looking at dog treats in the dog food aisle. She comes around the corner and starts screaming about how you people need to stay at home. I have allergies, screaming at the top of her lungs. First of all, if you're so allergic to dogs, what the fuck are you doing in the dog food aisle? So right there, she's probably lying. Second of all, you know what? I have a right protected by the law to use my service dog to assist me with my disability wherever I go. You have the right to carry a rescue inhaler or an EpiPen if you need it. Although, to be very honest, and I've looked and I've searched, I have yet to find anybody who is so allergic to dog dander that they go into anaphylaxis. I can't find it. It's usually pop a Benadryl, itch for a couple of minutes until it kicks in, and you're fine. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying I've never found evidence of it. Okay, but to overreact to that extent of screaming obscenities in a grocery store, unbelievable. Then there was the lady who intentionally followed us with her 6 or 7 year old young daughter, intentionally followed us through the store to send her daughter over to pet my dog, and stayed at the end of the aisle and sent the child to me. And I simply said, put my hand out and I said, he is a service dog and he is working. And she went ballistic. Mom went ballistic and started accusing me of racism. No, actually, the problem is your ableism, because my dog is not here to entertain your fucking crotch goblin. My dog is here to assist me with my disabilities. I'm a little worked up today. I'm a little grouchy today. I've got to admit it. Okay. My service dog is not here to entertain your crotch goblin. I came home and made that t-shirt. You can buy it at the PTSDog gear store on Teespring. It says, my service dog is not here to entertain your crotch goblin. Okay. We get treated like that, like we're circus attractions because we have a dog. Let me talk to you about the reality of handling a service dog. Let me talk to you about the thousands and tens of thousands of hours legitimate task trained service dog handlers spend working with and training their dogs. Let me talk to you about the insecurity and the anxiety over whether or not I'm doing it right. Is the dog, oh my God, my dog did this. Is it okay? I can't tell you how many. I mean, I'm a seasoned handler at 7.5 years public access with a 9-year-old service dog. I'm a seasoned handler. I've been around. I've had pretty much every situation occur, including dogs going after my dog. And I'm going to tell you that to this day, 7.5 years of access, public access, going to grocery stores, going to doctor's appointments, going to libraries, going to everywhere, restaurants, movie theaters. The only thing we haven't done is fly or ride the train. Haven't been on a train. Anyway, all of that time working with Skeeter, and still I'm a little bit insecure, and I'm still doubt, and I still wonder, what if every time we get out of the truck, is Skeeter going to be on his game? Am I going to be paying attention and handle my service dog? Or is something going to go wrong? What's going to happen today? That insecurity is always there. I don't care if you really understand the responsibility you hold when you hold that leash and you enter a business with your service dog, then you should be maybe not anxious, but you should be very aware that shit does happen and shit can go wrong. And you should be very aware that if it does, you have the responsibility immediately to regain control of the situation, no matter what it is. We've walked into Walmart and had an out of control dog in service dog gear charge Skeeter, screaming its head off. Skeeter knows that a dog is not supposed to behave that way. It surprised all of us. He barked one bark. I got him focused, and then that was, quite frankly, it was a provoked response. You have an animal come at you, barking its head off at the top of its lungs, pulling its owner, trying to get to your dog, and the dog says, no, bark, one bark. That is absolutely acceptable under the law. It is a provoked response. It was a quick warning, both to me and to that dog, that its behavior was inappropriate. Nevermore shoved a cart in between Skeeter and the dog. I hooked left with him to get him down an aisle away from that dog. And the woman's response was, oh, he must not like other dogs. To which I said, no, he doesn't like out of control dogs that shouldn't be in the store. There's a complete difference between the way that woman was handling her dog and the way I handle my dog. Now, I can't make any judgments as to whether or not she was actually disabled or whether or not the dog was task trained, but I can tell you that dog was out of control, completely out of control. And she tried to laugh it off like it was funny instead of being absolutely mortified because her dog was not fulfilling the requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act. This isn't a game. When you make the decision to handle a service dog to assist you with your disabilities, you are carrying a great load of responsibility on your shoulders. And every single bit of that responsibility is evident in the behavior of your animal. Now, I am not advocating for robotic behavior in any way, shape, or form. If you think that you have to train your dog to behave like a robot, go buy a fucking robot. The whole point of the service dog is that it interacts in a it interacts. A robot does what you tell it and only what you tell it. If then. A service dog, you build a cooperative team. It is teamwork. It is interaction. It is give and take. It is push and pull. And that team, that focus that you've built, that communication that you have created by forming a bond with your dog is more powerful and more difficult to explain than anything I can think of. I can't tell you how incredible my relationship with my dog is. But when you watch us work together, you know, okay, you just go, oh, look, they're like a cohesive unit. They move together, they think together, they respond together, they work together. It is cooperative, it is symbiotic. Skeeter and I are symbiotic. He keeps me alive and I keep him alive. He keeps me challenged and I keep him focused, which keeps me focused. We feed back into each other. We build on that. Everything is built on all the healing and all the growth that I have achieved. I don't take credit for. It's because I poured my energy and my time and my focus into my dog, and he responded in kind. You train your dog in order to assist you with your disability. You train and you train and you train. Every time you go out, it is a training opportunity. We train, we train, we train, we train. If you are not taking the responsibility of having a service dog seriously, if you think it's a fashion statement or a trend, and well, everybody else is getting one, so I must need one, you're wrong. You're wrong. This is not a fashion statement to have a Malamute standing beside me in the grocery store. It has nothing to do with how it looks. It has everything to do with what I need in order to be successful and regain independence. That's what he gives me. I'll return to independence. And I'm going to tell you something right now with this forced isolation, the self-quarantining, whatever you want to call it, I'm struggling. I feel like I'm losing ground. That the work that I have done in the past to build connections, to retrain my brain to be able to reach out and interact with other people, I'm losing ground, because it's like anything with muscle memory, you learn to do it and you practice in order to keep that memory fresh. You keep exercising in order to keep the ability available to you. Weightlifters don't get to a point where they can bench press 378 pounds and then stop. Okay. They keep practicing it in order to maintain the ability. Well, it works the same way with your psychological and emotional investment that you put in. If you practice, you have to practice. Skeeter's good at going and eating in restaurants because I take Skeeter when I go to eat at a restaurant. He doesn't eat. He's not the customer. I am. But the reason he's good at it is because it's something we do. We practice, we train. Muscle memory, exercise, practice. What words do you want to use? And right now we can't do that. So he's losing ground too. He knows how to behave in a restaurant, but I'm going to have to work a little harder the next time we go in order to remind him what he's supposed to be doing. Because I'm a responsible handler and I'm going to handle my dog, which is an active verb. Handle, to handle, not the noun, the little thing that you hold on to carry something, but the verb. I handle my dog. I have to be involved in that. There's interaction, there's communication, there's perception on my part and delivery, so that in a way that he perceives on his side, because he doesn't speak my language and I don't speak his, but we get close enough that we get what we need out of each other. He understands what I want him to do, and I understand why he doesn't want to do it, or why he does, or what he wants to do instead, if it's a case where I'm starting to lose control because I do have the PTSD and he needs to give me some direction, refocus me, or he's going to lose me. Going to lose me to the rage or the panic. Um, okay. All right. So Heidi's asking about if you go to the hospital and that you are responsible for your service dog, but what if you don't have somebody to help? What if your dog may or may not let someone near you in that type of situation? Okay. First of all, you definitely need to make sure that your dog will be comfortable allowing people to treat you. Period. the last thing you want is to be shuffled in an ambulance. And as long as the dog's not going to be in the way of the EMTs, or preventing the EMTs the ability to assist you, that they have to take the dog. It's just like they'd have to, fold up your wheelchair and stick it in the corner to, get you to the hospital, or your oxygen tank, or, they're not going to take your hearing aids out to treat you unless, they might have to zap you or something. So your dog, look, Skeeter doesn't listen to anybody else but me, but if I'm not available, Skeeter will listen. Okay. If I'm in the room, I'm in charge, and he won't listen to anybody else. However, if I'm not there, Skeeter does obey other people. I give people cautions, keep him on a leash, because he likes to wander around when we go potty and stuff. When we take him out to go potty, he'll take off and wander for 20 minutes. And I'm comfortable with that in our little area. If we were in downtown in the city, he'd never come off a leash. But we're out in the country where it's okay. The neighbor doesn't care if he's wandering around peeing on the corner of his garage. They like watching. They come over and pet him and talk to him. If you are hospitalized, you are responsible for pottying and caring for your dog. If you aren't able to do that, there's a couple of different things you can do. First of all, if you have to, if there's no family around or whatever, you can arrange for kenneling your dog. It's definitely not preferred. If you explain to the kennel that, hey, I'm in the hospital, this is my service dog, I can't care for him or her right now because I'm inpatient and need some help, usually they will send somebody. Most of them the situations happened that I've talked to, the hospital arranged to come, or the kennel arranged to come pick up your animal. They take the instructions of food and stuff. Most sporting kennel type places will work with you and have dealt with that kind of situation. Another thing, and this is something that we did on the PTSDog page, we had a veteran who ended up taking a big fall hiking. She and her service dog, she was injured very badly, broke her hip. She had to spend some time in a rehabilitation facility. And you know what? We just put out the word and coordinated dog walkers to come to assist her. So the dog was in her room with her most of the time. So somebody came to walk the dog 3 times a day and feed the dog and things for her while she was recovering, until she got to the point where she could walk her dog. Then that became part of her physical therapy, was walking her dog, because she was recovering from a broken hip. Okay. The hospital has to work with you for that. Let's see. Yeah. So another thing you can do is look, if you don't have family in the neighborhood who can come help you, but you have neighbors. My next door neighbor, I know if I ended up in the hospital and there, for whatever reason, Nevermore wasn't available or whatever, I know I could holler at my next door neighbor and say, hey, I need your help. I'm in the hospital. I need you to come take Skeeter, take him home. I do the same and call my landlord. I'm in the hospital. I need somebody to come get Skeeter home till Nevermore can bring him back. Uh, but the point is, the fact is, you're responsible. Hospital staff is that now there might be like a patient advocate who would help you coordinate with a local shelter, or a local not shelter kennel, boarding kennel, or local nonprofits, or and especially, not everybody's a veteran, and I know this, but if you're a veteran, if there's a VFW and you end up hospitalized and you need somebody to come walk your service dog, call the VFW. Hey, I need 5 or 6 guys to volunteer, come help on a rotating schedule to walk my service dog while I'm recovering from a car accident or whatever. Remember something too, though, if this happens and you're hospitalized and you're bedridden for a period of time, remember you're going to lose ground as far as training is concerned. It's just inevitable. If you are not actively working and training your dog, guess what? Muscle memory. Same thing if you don't practice something. the dog starts to forget. So you have your work cut out for you when you go get back to where you're able to handle your dog day in, day out, to retrain and rework with that dog and get the dog to remember what it's learned and stay focused. You definitely have to, excuse me, pollen season is crazy. You definitely have to remember that you're going to have work to do, and you need to be willing to do it, and hopefully you're able to do it. And this is another reason why I'm so, there is a place for third-party trained dogs, but at the same time, when something like that happens, is such and such an organization going to take your dog back for a refresher for 3 months because you don't know how to train your dog? Whereas if you go to a cooperative organization where they train you how to train your dog, you've got all the tools you need. And if you have something where you're not sure how to do it, right? Every single cooperative training organization I know, all of them, all you got to do is call the trainer and say, hey, I need a refresher session or two. And all of them say, yep, anytime. Because they want you to succeed. That's why they do it the way they do, why they give you the tools to train your dog yourself. I want you to think about something. I want you to think about something about who we are, the handlers of task trained service dogs. We are the most elite dog handlers in the world. The legitimate disabled people who handle actual task trained service dogs. There are less of us than there are police dogs. There are less of us than there are military working dogs in the world. When it comes to the dog handling world of people who handle dogs, we are amongst the most elite of the elite because we are amongst the most minority of minorities. That's a big responsibility. And that's something you need to think about if you want to have a service dog, if you think you need a service dog, is are you prepared for the fact that people are going to look at you and expect that you will fulfill what their image of a service dog is? Or are you going to teach them a more realistic image? Robotic behavior is not a service dog, definitely not a PTSD service dog or a medical alert service dog. A seeing eye dog to a degree, yes, there's more of a need for a kind of a robotic um, type behavior model. But in a lot of ways, you can replace a seeing eye dog. They're developing new canes with sonar technology and uses sounds to signal to the user what obstructions they're facing and where. There are technologies that can actually replace the use of a seeing eye dog or augment the use of a seeing eye dog. I'm not saying seeing eye dogs are bad or wrong. I'm saying that model of that specific task that dog performs, that does require some very restrictive training. Okay. Medical alert dog needs to be able to tolerate and behave in public. But when it comes to picking up on what's going on with you and alerting you, that requires, seeing eye dog is trained not to interact in any way but left, right, stop, go with their handler. But we're far more interactive and far more hands-on with our PTSD service dogs. We rely on that contact, that physical contact. We rely on that to release endorphins, to lower cortisol levels, to lower adrenaline levels in our bodies, to keep us calm. We rely on the dog's misbehavior, which is actually redirection. The dog knows when we're too stressed and we need to focus on something else. And what does the dog get us to focus on? him or her, the dog. Okay. So when you're focused on the dog, guess what you're not focused on? All the stuff going on around you that's stressing you out. Tell you a story about a veteran who I talked with, who was in part of the Veterans Court and was um, a TED Saw handler. And he went to Veterans Court, and the judge said something about the way the dog was behaving. That dog's not acting like any service dog I've ever seen before. And the veteran had TBIs, and he had a lot of difficulty with cognitive impairment because of brain damage from TBIs. And so he asked his trainer to come to the next court session with him. And she did. So she, got permission from the judge, and uh, so she sat and watched the veteran and the dog as they interacted in court. And then the judge said, "Can you explain this?" And she said, "Well, it makes perfect sense to me, Your Honor, because what you're failing to understand is that this dog is trained to respond to this veteran and to redirect his attention when he's stressed out. Now, where is he? In court. Highly stressful situation. So what's the dog going to do? Try to redirect the man's attention. And because he's in court, he can't respond appropriately to the dog, right? The dog's going to escalate because that dog has been trained to get his attention and get him to refocus no matter what. Okay, my dog is the same way. If I'm not paying attention to his initial alerts, he gets more insistent. And to the person who doesn't understand that what the dog is trying to do is redirect your attention, it looks like the dog is misbehaving. Is the dog being disruptive until it starts barking? No. Or whining incessantly? Okay, no. The dog's nudging your elbow, head butting you, putting its paw on your lap, putting its head in your lap, whatever you've trained the dog to do, but you're ignoring the alert, you're not responding, or you're pushing him away, then the dog's going to try louder. Okay. This is a failure on the part of the handler to listen to the dog, or in the part of the situation, an inability to respond in the way that you train the dog, because I'm in court, I got to sit right here, I can't do this, I can't do that, right? You got to be there and quiet. Okay. So the dog is escalating, trying to get, because what the dog has been trained is when it alerts, you respond however, you pet the dog, scratch its ears, tell the good dog, give it a treat, whatever, right? So it doesn't know that it's succeeded until it receives that award. You trained it. I don't know many people who train their dog how to alert appropriately in court. It's not a situation I spend a lot of time in. I have been in court with Skeeter. He behaved in exemplary fashion because he's trained to. But it's not something like I'm like, oh, I'm going to get arrested a lot, so I better make sure I train my dog. But at the same time, you could get a bad speeding ticket, or you might have 73 parking tickets. You might end up in court with your dog. So think about how your dog behaves, how your dog alerts, how you can work through that so that if that kind of situation appears, your dog will behave appropriately. That's the kind of thing we need to think about, is that, as service dog handlers, when we walk into any place with our dog, we are under scrutiny. We are the most visible. It's why I say we are amongst the elite of the elite. We are the most visible. We are under the spotlight every time we go somewhere. And so, for that reason, it's not the best solution for a lot of people to have a service dog. It isn't. If you can't handle that responsibility and that reality, maybe service dog isn't the right decision for you. That's okay. Maybe you change the way you interact and things you do. I use the fact that we're in the spotlight anytime I walk into a store with Skeeter to my advantage to help overcome symptomology of my disability. What we're talking about when we're talking about using a service dog, especially for a psychiatric service dog, is we're talking about modalities of healing. We're talking about seeking growth. You may never get better. I hate to break it to you, but PTSD doesn't go away. Brain damage from TBIs doesn't just magically disappear. This is something you have to pursue. And some people can get to the point where they don't need a service dog anymore. And that's wonderful. That's the idea, especially with PTSD service dog, is not to need your dog by the time you're done. But some people heal quicker than others. I know that I am in a much, much better place than I was before I started training Skeeter. My ability, my independence has returned in immense ways, countless ways. At the same time, I know that when his time comes, which is sooner rather than later, he's an old dog, I need to find a successor. These are the realistic kinds of things that we need to think about and we need to talk about as a community. And everybody's all scared and worried and put trigger warning, the loss of a service dog. No. You know what? Life doesn't give us triggers. I could wake up tomorrow and Skeeter's not there on any given day we've got to be open and discuss and plan and think about and strategize the realities. Because quite frankly, this is your lifeline right here. That dog is what got you back out into the world. That dog gave you independence. It's up to you to keep that independence. How are you going to continue when it's time for the dog to pass? Have you thought about it? Are you planning? I know I need another service dog. I am very aware that I'm procrastinating getting a puppy. I'm doing it for a couple of reasons. I have some legitimate reasons for it. Okay. Uh, at the same time, if Skeeter didn't wake up tomorrow morning, I'd be screwed. I'm aware of that too. I'm trying to find the right balance of when to bring another puppy into the house. Freya's 2 years old. Freya's not going to be a service dog anywhere but in the household. She's too reactive, and we've worked with her and we've worked with her, and I will continue to work with her, but she cannot control. She has no impulse control. But that's okay. She's a good dog and we love her. She's not going anywhere. But if I'm going to bring a puppy into this house to start training, I've got to get a handle on how to keep her from influencing the puppy in the way that Skeeter did not influence her because he doesn't want to have anything to do with her. If Skeeter had taken to her and taken her under his wing, I think we'd have a completely different dog. But Skeeter was like, no, no puppies. He's always been that way. He's a grouch when it comes to little puppies. And that's okay. He can be a grouch. But that means I've got to work harder with his successor in order to impress on him that, hey, this is, and I didn't do that with Freya because Freya's not my dog. She's never Moore's dog. Skeeter's successor, hopefully I will be able to put them next to each other and train them together so that Skeeter can train the youngster. But you got to think, these are all things I got to think through. And Skeeter is a grouchy old fart and he doesn't like puppies. So I've got to figure out a way through that. Sooner rather than later, it's getting to the point. He's more than 9 years old now, which for a dog his size is senior. and this is just reality. This is just reality. These are the things you need to be thinking about. This is the process. Your brain needs to go to these places, whether it's painful and scary or not. Folks, one of the most important aspects of handling a service dog is understanding and accepting the personal responsibility that goes with it. You have the right to use a service dog. It is absolutely your right. You also have the responsibility to fulfill the requirements of the law. If you are not fulfilling the requirements of the law, then you don't have a service dog. You're not protected by the law. It's not legally a service dog if it's not housebroken. It's not legally, you're not protected to take it with you if it's not under control, or if something happens and you lose control, you're not capable of taking immediate and effective action. So words of the law, immediate effective action to regain control. You have that responsibility. Too many handlers take this lightly. Oh, well, it's my right, so I can do it if I want. It's my right to own a gun. I can own a gun if I want. It's my responsibility not to shoot somebody with it. Same thing. You have the right to handle a service dog. You have the responsibility to do it correctly. You want to know what the artful handler is all about? Look, when Canines for Warriors gives a veteran a service dog, they hand over the leash, and that veteran goes and starts living his life, and that dog bites somebody, guess who's first to indemnify themselves and say, we're not responsible? Canines for Warriors. Because guess what the law says? Canines for Warriors isn't responsible for the dog biting somebody. The person holding the leash is. The handler is responsible. The handler is who gets sued. Now, if the handler feels that Canines for Warriors and this, I just pulled that name out of the air, it's nothing against Canines for Warriors, but if that handler is determined that Canines for Warriors misrepresented the training, and the dog really wasn't trained to be able to be a service dog, or wasn't trained adequately, or if you guys are smart, you think about this, the handler was not trained by the organization how to handle their dog interactively. They were essentially sold a plug and play experience, which is not the case ever with a service dog. It doesn't exist. There is no plug and play service dog. None. Not even seeing eye dogs. It's not plug and play. If the organization does not train you to handle your dog, the organization is failing you. Because at the end of the day, when somebody gets bit in the aisle in the Piggly Wiggly, the person holding the leash is responsible every single time. If you don't know what you're doing with that leash in your hand, you shouldn't be doing it. And organizations are failing their clients because they are not teaching them the law. That makes me angry. That makes me mad. You know why these poor guys and ladies aren't learning the law? Because they're not being trained cooperatively. Organizations have sold the United States the lie that they're the only people who can train a service dog. Guess what? They're not. And when they try to crank out cookie cutter dogs, what they're doing is making the industry worse, because they're cranking out these dogs that could do this and this and this and this and handing them over to people who don't know how to handle them. And so that dog's training starts slipping immediately because the person holding the leash has no clue what they're doing. Because the organization convinced them that they're the only ones who can train a dog. And in order to keep it that way, the organizations can't teach the handlers what to do. Because at some point, if the handler's got half a brain, they'll realize, hey, wait a minute. Why am I paying you $25,000, $35,000? Why am I fundraising $25,000 or $35,000 for you when I'm capable of doing this myself? They want to maintain that lie so they can keep getting their donations. It's become a money game. You know what? If you got your dog from an organization and you love them and they saved your life, more power to you. But look at where your dog's coming from. Look at where the money's going. Right now, especially with the world shut down, the big names, Canines for Warriors, Canine Companions, Canine Navigators, the big names, they have steady donations from patrons, funds, very rich people who say, I will donate $175,000 a year, $200,000 a year. That's what sustains the large organizations. The small nonprofits that focus not on the organization and how it looks, because that's what they're really doing with all that money. It's all about how they look and how they can continue to perpetuate the myth that they're the only ones who can train service dogs. The small organizations, the ones that do cooperative training, they rely heavily on their local communities and on being able to conduct fundraising events. And they can't right now. And they're dying. The corporate organizations are winning because they've sold this generic structure of training and generic behavior as being what's acceptable, and people bought it. And I will tell you right now, I will put Skeeter up against any organization's third-party trained service dog. You send us both into the same grocery store at the same time, and we'll work through the grocery store. And I'm going to tell you right now, I guarantee Skeeter's behavior is going to be evaluated as being better than the other person's. Not because the other person, not to their fault in any way, shape, or form. It's just that they were not trained how to handle their dogs. Another way I relate it is I say, here, kid, you're 16 years old. You just got your driver's license. Here's the keys to the Maserati. Go have fun. Kid doesn't know how to work a clutch, doesn't have a clue what to do with 600 horsepower of engine, has no idea how paddle shifters work. But here's the keys. Go have a good time, kid. And then expect them not to have an accident. That's how these plug and play third-party training organizations treat their clientele. Here are the keys to the Maserati. Don't scratch it. Have a nice day. And they lock the door and kick them out. And just like a kid with a brand new sports car, I have no idea what to do with this. I didn't learn how to drive this. I don't know, And they throw you out the door with less than a week's worth of actual training on handling your dog. Less than a week, folks. 5 days, an hour or two a day for a week. On the 3-week program, let's see. I'm going to get a service dog from such and such organization. They train it. They bring me to their facility for 3 weeks. The first week is spent hopping dog to dog and seeing if there's any kind of connection. The second week is spent just doing plain old obedience, walking around, sit, stay, down, left, right, let's go. The third week, they take them out in public access. They're not teaching them anything, but it's your right. You could take the dog, and if somebody stops you, you can say, it's a service dog. You have to let me in. They might go over, well, what tasks does it do? Okay, does this, this, and this. But they don't explain why. They don't explain that the ADA is a civil rights law guaranteeing equal access for disabled handlers of task-trained service dogs. The ADA is not a law about dogs. The ADA is an equal rights law guaranteeing your right, protecting your right to be treated equally and to be given equal access, the same access as anybody else who's abled. Under the ADA, as it is written and intended, the service dog is to be treated in the same manner as a wheelchair or an oxygen tank. or hearing aids. Essentially, you ignore it and allow the person to live their lives and go about what they need to do. That is basically what the law intends. Americans with Disabilities Act is not a law about dogs. The use of service dogs is protected as part of the Americans with Disabilities Act. But the law is much larger and more encompassing than that. It's not a law about dogs. It's a law about equality. Using the dogs is part of equality of access. And they're not teaching their clients that. I can't tell you how many veterans I've run into with a service dog from such and such an organization that don't have a clue about their rights. They just know, well, it's my right. What does that mean? Do you understand what that means? Same veterans talk to them about owning firearms, and they will wax eloquently about the Second Amendment, but they haven't given the same amount of time to their equality of access. I'll tell you this thing, this social distancing stuff, this has given us a lot of time to sit back and look and think and rethink a lot of things about what's going on in the world around us. And we're seeing some situations where in America, where rights guaranteed to be protected by the Constitution of the United States are being abused, are being denied, outright denied. Perfect example is tickets being given to churchgoers who attended a parking lot assembly for Easter where everybody stayed in their cars and listened to a sermon broadcast over FM radio, low power FM radio. And the police in that town wrote every single attendee a ticket. That's actually a violation of the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. There are better ways to do the things we're doing. There's smart ways. Assembling in their cars in the parking lot was pretty smart. There was no personal contact. Nobody's sneezing on anybody. Nobody has to worry about washing their hands. You're in your car. You're encapsulated. That was actually a smart way to get around the social distancing, maintain social distance, but be able to gather. I got no problem with that. That was smart. But that city's mayor overreached and violated a fundamental right. Handling a service dog in order to have equal access, in order to have the independence to be able to go places and do things is a right. It is just as important as the rights protected by the First Amendment, the rights protected by the Second Amendment, the rights protected by the entirety of the Bill of Rights. The right to equality, equal access is just as important. It would be in your best interest to understand that right. To the best of your ability, to the full extent of your ability, you need to understand why you're protected, why it's considered equality to use a service dog. And in understanding, you will learn why trying to limit access by instituting registries or forcing all service dog handlers to go to a state-run testing facility to see if you could actually, if it's actually a trained dog, you'll understand why that is a violation of your right to equality. But if you don't take the time to learn, you'll buy anything anybody's trying to sell you. There are still veterans out there who think that their little registration card that they got online for $64 is legitimate and makes their dog a service dog. There are still veterans out there who think that the certificate and the ID badge that they got from their training organization is proof that their dog is a service dog. I hate to break it to you, but the law says different. The law says those aren't worth the paper they're printed on. What the law requires is that your dog behave in a manner that fulfills the ADA, that it is task trained to perform work or tasks to assist you with your disability, that it is housebroken, and that it is under control at all times. That's what the law requires. The law specifically says those registration cards, registries, and certificates don't mean a damn thing under the law. They don't mean a thing. Still got veterans who don't understand that, and that just boggles my mind. All right, folks, I got to start wrapping it up. Listen, right now, this evening, we are on dvradio.net and WDVR donating time to the Jaeger Foundation. All their fundraisers got canceled because of COVID. They're actually based in Michigan, and Michigan's governor has taken draconian, constitutionally questionable steps to limit access and shut down all gatherings. No events. These organizations rely on fundraising events. The small nonprofits rely on fundraising events. Bingo. The dodgeball tournament. Jaeger was having a dodgeball tournament to get funds to assist with their mission. Okay, that's all been thrown out the window. It's been taken away from them right now, and they're hurting. So we're doing what we can to help. Radiothon, I believe it's at 5 p.m. Look at the post on the main PTS Dog page or on the Service Dog Show page. I will also share it in the group. Share it around. If you can't listen, please share the post. Help spread the word. The more people we can get to listen, the more donations. If I'm on, I'm not sure if I'm helping host every night or not. I did last night. Every $100 donation, I will get Skeeter to sing. So there's incentive for you to listen, at least listen and share. As if somebody makes a $100 donation, I'll get Skeeter to sing. He sang great last night for a $100 donation. There are prizes every night. There's a randomized drawing of everybody who donated during the radiothon. Last night, a woman won a piece. Each night, there's a piece progressively of more value that I've created on the lathe, turned to piece. So she won a little wooden box last night. There's another box going up for the winner tonight. And then so Saturday's the last day of the marathon, radiothon, whatever you want to call it. The grand prize is a bowl that I turned, that I donated to Jaeger for fundraising. There's on the grand prize, there's a quilt, patriotic quilt, handmade. There's all kinds of prizes. So please, you know what? Don't sit and watch Netflix and watch the Tiger King this evening. Check out dvradio.net or tune into the DV Radio channel on the Live 365 app. Listen to the Jaeger Marathon, Jaeger Foundation Marathon, and help support nonprofit that is in need. They're hurting. And you know what kills me is the needs that those nonprofits fulfill have not changed, even though their ability to raise funds to fulfill those needs has been taken away from them. So help us make a difference. We're doing what we are providing the platform in order for them to help raise the money they need to keep helping veterans. If you can't donate, that's fine. Please share so that maybe somebody who can donate will listen. Join in. Join into the chat at dvradio.net/chat. It's completely anonymous. DV Radio does not track your information. All you do is type a comment into the comment box. It asks you to make a profile. You can call yourself whatever you want. We don't need to know what your name is. You can call yourself whatever you want. You can call yourself 007 James Bond. Don't care. But join in the conversation. Talk to us. That's a fun part of the live broadcast that we're doing, is that we are able to have a live chat during the show. Help us spread the word and help us help some of these small nonprofits out here who are dying right now. And you know what? It's killing their clientele too. That veteran who's can't get a service dog, and the Jaeger Foundation was going to help them, but the money just dried up completely. What's he supposed to do? Just not commit suicide until things pick back up? It doesn't work that way. So help us reach out. I got to wrap it up. Because they are doing the marathon later today, got to turn the system back over to DV Radio. Thank you all for listening. I don't know what we'll talk about next week, but we will be back next week. Catch you guys later.